Hey, and we're live. You have 3 different angles from the sidelines of Tafari and Kosi Tafari's game-winning goal. Late, almost bedtime, but a clutch winner as FC Dallas gets the 1-0 victory over Austin FC. What a night! What a Saturday night! What a late one in one of those games that tests your humanity and your patience as a fan of this team. But first of all, let me just say welcome to Afterburn Soccer Show. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Send in your comments, your questions. I'm Nathan Hill. You can follow me at Nathan J. Hill. And with me once again tonight is our buddy Jose Carmona. You can follow him at El Chico Carmona. Yeah, so let's go with those reactions. Austin FC comes to town. Austin was already wrapping up. We're complaining in the back channels about wanting to celebrate the Copa Tejas for the second year in a row. And they would have done it. And it almost was. It was almost a 0-0 result, which would have meant that Austin had enough points to claim the cup. But then Tafari spoke. Then Tafari did his thing. And so what a gut punch for Austin FC fans, but what a glorious moment for FC Dallas fans. So just your reactions to that match, Jose.
Well, I think that they got off to an ominous start when we all learned before in the game through an Austin person that Jesus Ferreira was out for the match.
Right.
And then we were all like, for real? We're all like wondering, right up until an hour before kickoff that, we got it's legit. So I'm just shocked to get that kind of information from someone outside of the organization first. So, but other than that, after that, it was just frustrating. The funny thing is the frustration started once Geovane Jesus went out. Geovane Jesus was looking like he picked up right after off of League's Cup, which is not something you can say for everybody else,
right?
Except for maybe Paz and Tafari. And Jesus, those 3 guys are the 3 guys that looked like they picked up right after the League's Cup. Geovane Jesus looks like the real deal, and then he goes and gets injured, and we all love Tuamasi, but his offensive limitations were there for everyone to see. So I'm excited. Honestly, pull the rabbit out of the hat, on this one. I have to say that I actually was. I had to admit that I actually missed the winning goal because I was actually leaving work right at extra time, and I was basically listening to it on the radio, and I was basically just praying. It's like, I was looking at the clock, so it actually said 90 plus 9 minutes without a score, which was showing on my thing, and then of course the score happens and we started celebrating. But let's face it, we were all up until the goal. Nobody was really happy. None of the fans were happy with what they were seeing on the field.
Yeah, it definitely was a hard-fought game. We'll hear from Nico, head coach Nico Estevez, in just a moment. But yeah, and I was on the tarmac. I had flown into Dallas for a connecting flight back home, and was just watching the game and knowing that I was gonna have to shut my phone off. The plane was taxiing, and I was hoping, and and luckily, I don't know what happened, if there was traffic on the ground or what, but we waited just long enough, and I saw that goal, and I was able to turn the phone off and be a happy passenger on that airplane. It was something else, and those kinds of experiences make soccer wonderful, right? They make it fun being an FC Dallas fan, and it's not the first late winner we have seen from this team. In years past, it's a great moment in this sport. But if you had taken our temperature, first half was cagey. Neither team really had much in control. It just really looked like FC Dallas missed Jesus in this one. They just missed that presence to make Austin, because I think Austin handled Jesus Jimenez. They didn't have to worry too much about him, and that's not no disrespect to Jesus, but just we haven't seen him really bounce. He's bouncing back from his injury and stuff. We just haven't seen him be the presence that Jesus has been, and the danger that teams have to think about. So, and Bernie Kamungo, Bernard, just wasn't the dynamic presence that we saw in the Leagues Cup. So it's just, and you expect that. In fact, well, let's go ahead and hear Nico because he does talk about this break between games that likely contributed to some of the uneven play from the squad.
I think we knew it's going to be tough. First of all, because Austin is a great team, very very well coached, and really talented players in the team, and they were coming from a tough loss last week, and we knew that they're going to show up and they're going to respond. For us also, we have to take into account that it was our first game after some weeks, like I think it's 20 days, because our last game was August 6th. Then usually when you have your first game, you are a little bit sloppy. The tempo and the rhythm of the game is you are a little bit behind, and you could see that, like some sloppy touches, is like some sloppy actions, and not the way that you want it to be, and be clean to break a difficult defense, right? And more when they went to a 5 in the back with one less man, like it was difficult to penetrate. It was difficult to get into them. But what I have to say is other thing that it was really difficult. It was the heat. It was really really hot. And when people don't realize is we have been playing with the heats throughout like 2 months already, or 2.5 months, training every day, playing games, and it's very very difficult to handle mentally. And I think we had that mentality too, even that it was tough, it was hard at the end to make the difference with that goal.
And it's
I think.
All right, there we go. Oh yeah, so you hear those factors, and I think Nico's right. 20 days from your last action, when you were at least in rhythm, and it was a very emotional match against Inter Miami, who then went on to win the Leagues Cup. It was going to be slow. It was going to be a little sloppy for this team, and then heat doesn't help. Austin had just taken a drubbing on their last game, so they were going to come in definitely with renewed sort of focus and a defensive presence. All those factors made life difficult for FC Dallas, but on top of that, you missed Jesus, and I don't know, it wasn't working. It wasn't clicking like we saw with the Leagues Cup. Yeah.
And well, let's face it, FC Dallas looked like a team that hadn't played in 3 weeks, and Austin had actually played, even though they played bad. They at least had time to shrug off the rust. And in all honesty, I think the drubbing they took made Austin basically come out and play more defensive than normal, knowing that Dallas likes teams who come after them. So Austin was basically, they won't admit it, but they were being way more careful than they normally would be. And also, frankly, the red card should have changed the game, and it actually hurt FC Dallas because they probably had more chances before the red card than after the red card, and Austin, at that time had no choice but to pretty much bunker, go into the low block and defend for their lives. And frankly, Dallas has always struggled against teams that bunker, even 10-man. So it was very frustrating for the fans, for all of us to see Dallas struggling to break down a 10-man team, which, it's always frustrating when teams bunker like that, and knowing that, your team is struggling. It was close, and it had to come from a set piece. That's really the only way they're going to score.
Yeah, right, and they kept pushing, they kept trying. Dallas really hasn't found their form with corner kicks as much. in the past couple of seasons. I hope that will come through at some point, but those kinds of situations don't always deliver for Dallas. So yeah, it sort of plays into Austin's hands at that point. But hey, credit to Dallas for just sticking in there. You keep at it, and you find a way. And Tafari becomes your fourth striker that we didn't know we had on the roster, right? So credit to him. He's a character. Well, let's go back to the red card, the second yellow to Pereira. There's been a little chatter that people thought that was harsh, but it was the second yellow.
It was warranted. It was warranted. He was already carrying a yellow, and then the foul it was a clean foul. It was basically it was an automatic yellow for that kind of foul. It was a clean. He didn't hit the ball. He hit our player in the legs. Anyone who argues with that yellow is too much of a homer, I think, because that was clean. That was inexcusable, undefensible. And if that had been an FC Dallas player, I would have still be saying the same thing. I would have said, hey, that was dumb for that player to do that. Let's face it, you're on a yellow. The last thing you should be doing is diving for the ball. Those sliding tackles. You should not be doing those. You should not even be attempting them unless they're 100% clean.
Right.
And that wasn't clean. It was contested. And you're carrying yellow. I'm sorry, but you play with fire, you're going to get burned.
Mm-hmm. Well, RT's question here about going back to Jesus Jimenez, is it time to write him off? It wasn't a great outing for him. I was a little surprised they didn't go with Ansa, who at least had a little more rhythm, perhaps, but is still new to the team. So, yeah, it's harsh to say it's time to write him off. It's been a weird season for him, but at the same time, you would hope he'd at least be a little more of a presence in the attack, in the attacking flow at this point with his time with the team. What do you think, Jose?
Well, yes, the answer is yes and no. So, Jimenez was brought in, and let's face it, he's would work better in a pairing with Jesus or another striker in a more of a 4-4-2 or any formation that has two strikers. And then what he was doing would have been, trying to hold up and stuff like that, would have been welcomed. But when he's the lone striker, what he was doing wasn't working, and that's having him next to Jesus or another striker is ideal. So he's just not right for the system. And I know that FC Dallas has flirted with playing like a 4-4-2, or like a 3 in the back and stuff like that, where a second forward like Jimenez would be ideal. But let's face it, with all the additions and everything that the team's done, there really is no reason to play a 2-striker formation. So Jimenez is the wrong man for what FC Dallas' primary formation is. He is going to be good if they go to a secondary 4-4-2, but there's no reason to do it right now. With all the wingers you've got, all the midfielders you've got, I'm sorry, he is in the same boat as Edwin Cerrillo was. Where Edwin Cerrillo was, and mind you, who had an excellent game for LAG, who won 3-0 and looked great, because Los Angeles Galaxy is playing with 2 6s, 2 defensive mids, and Cerrillo plays best in that formation. And FC Dallas can play in that formation, but they would rather not. They want the single pivot, they want the 2-8s, and so Cerrillo was, I like the kid, and he played his heart out for us, and I'm not knocking his play in Dallas. I'm just saying his best position was with another 6. And so it's a blessing for him to go to LAG, and unfortunately for Jimenez, he needs to go to a 2-striker system. So unless Dallas plans to incorporate some 4-4-2 or something like that, then the answer is yes. Unfortunately, Jimenez will never add up for this team. unless there's some kind of formation change. And frankly, I'm ready for Ansah to be given a shot as the number 2 striker because he looks more in line to what the team wants. Um, you know, what Dallas wants is a striker that can also play on either wings, so that they can then rotate. So you can have Jesus, Ansah, Obrian, and have them all just basically swap in spots. Even Velasco, whoever you put on the wings, they want their strikers and their wingers to be interchangeable, and Jimenez can only play one position. So he kind of hamstrings what Dallas likes to do. So yeah, it's I like the guy. I still think he can help, and he can help some teams. And he should actually he's a guy that you want to bring in as a sub when teams are bunkering. But right now, like I said, unless Dallas formation changes on its way, I'm afraid Jimenez is simply in the wrong formation.
Our friends over at Big D Soccer did a look at this question, Coach, on how long is Jimenez on our books for, and he looks like he is fully under contract for another season, 2024, and then there's maybe an option year after that. So, and it's not bad insurance to have if Jesus does get sold. Jesus Ferreira gets sold this winter. There's been some chatter about that going on, but we'll wait and see, about that. And RT, we'll come back to our other question here in a minute. It was good to see Cerrillo get the start, see him thrive. Yes. It's still kind of weird.
300K bonus ever, because that I thought that was weird that if he had to play at least one game for them to get. It's like, have you seen the Los Angeles Galaxy? Cerrillo was immediately one of their best players and pretty much a must start for them, and they've got a ways to go from getting out of the cellar, but I think Cerrillo will become a key cog for that team. Yes, but it's I don't know. I think Jimenez can still help this team, but I see him more as a super sub. Like I said, he's the guy that you want with fresh legs coming in when teams are bunkering, like Austin was doing there at the end. We've always wanted that big, strong striker, and frankly, for what they're probably gonna be paying him, he's your new Hara. He's your new overpaid striker that isn't starting for you and coming off the bench. I'm sorry to say. I mean, not saying that he can't help us. I'm just saying for what he's going to be getting paid, he should be fighting for a starting spot. And right now, like I said, I think he'd be a great super sub for us, but not much more.
Yeah, and he was brought in because we were missing Jesus for Gold Cup action and all that kind of stuff, and but then Jimenez gets injured and he doesn't get an extended run that we were hoping, and maybe he would be much more informed. Agreed. And figuring things out. So, and as to your question about Geo status, nothing yet. I don't think. I think Wednesday or Thursday when the team has its meet. Well, actually, I guess we're playing Wednesday night, so there might be a call tomorrow, and we can find out more about his status. Hopefully, it's just a precautionary kind of thing, and he'll be back soon. But yeah, and our buddy Kuv is with us here, and yeah, we got to give Nkosi some love, and just his attitude, his personality, a really nice, I think he's due for a contract extension. Let me look at what Big D said his.
And while you're looking that up, just want to remind everybody that while we've all been crapping on Martinez and we've had our complaints about Quignon and Tuamasi, FC Dallas right now has the number 2 defense in the league. Number 2. With all the issues that we think we have on defense, FC Dallas has still managed to basically there's only one team ahead of them. Actually, I didn't watch the Seattle game on last night. What was the score on that? Because
I thought it was a draw.
before that game, Seattle was sitting at 25 goals and FC Dallas was at 26. So
Yeah, I think it was
we
a
may
1-1
be in
draw. That's
second.
what I believe.
Yeah, I think we may be second simply by they played the same games. We may be tied for first, in all honesty.
Well, that's good. And Kosi actually, he has another year under his contract and then 2 option years. So I guess your front office is probably not in any hurry to negotiate right away.
I think
Yeah.
he's playing to the level now. If he gets a couple, let's say he earns a couple more player of the weeks, or at least makes the bench or something like that. Because let's face it, his play has been that well. They're going to have to renegotiate at some point. Maybe not this season, but they got to start thinking about it and say, hey, we weren't certain if Koss was the guy, but he looks like the heir apparent to the legend. In all honesty, we've all known it, we've seen it, and it's really now to the point where it's ridiculous if Koss isn't starting. It should be Koss starting every game so long as he's healthy, and Martinez and Ibiaga rotating starts. Because let's face it, Koss right now is your best guy. He is, and he's still got room to grow. So, I mean, I think we've all seen it. We've all been waiting for him to basically step forward and take command, and we're starting to see it. We're starting to see a guy who's starting to show that fire, that leadership, that the person leading the back line should have. So I think he's coming into his own this season, and frankly, they should start thinking about giving him a new contract and saying, hey, you're going to be our bellwether back there.
Good stuff. And hey, I got to give a shout out to Jose Martinez, who definitely is a guy, veteran guy, certainly, locker room guy. And, has had some moments where his veteran savvy is a help, but has also had moments where you're just like, what are you doing, man? There was a moment in the second half where Austin was on counter, and it looked really dangerous. And there was Jose in front of the man with whoever was coming forward from Austin on the ball. And in the past, I think that was the kind of play that Jose knows he was going to get burned on, speed-wise. And so he would have just dove in for a tackle and whiffed or something, and then it really would have turned a bad situation into a full-on fire, But in this case, he didn't. He actually kept his positioning, kept in front of the defender, and forced the counterattack to fizzle. And so it was just a little moment in there. I was like, thank you, Jose. Like and I don't know if some of that is because, you get injured, you get knocks, and you just don't have the strength or the energy to keep going. But he was up for it even on Saturday in a really tough situation. So credit to him as well.
And the thing with Jose is that we know what he is. We know what he can do. And we all knock him for when he does get beaten, because let's face it, he's not the fastest guy out there. And everybody knows this. And still, this man is a lunch pail guy. He comes in, he does his work, he does it quietly, he doesn't make any fuss. And there's a place for a player like that here. And it's the point, like I said, where you play the matchups, For certain teams, you're going to want Jose, and for other teams, you're going to want Ibiaga. And Koss should be your everyday starter. And frankly, you're starting to see, you already know Farfan is a lockdown left back. Koss is locked down one of the center back spots. And if Geovane Jesus is healthy, you have to think he's locking down that right spot over Tuamasi, because Tuamasi, yes, he's an excellent defensive player, much better than Geovane Jesus. But man, that his when he goes forward, he just looks like he doesn't know what to do. It's too hesitant, And maybe that's the fact that he's not 100%, which is, it's a valid concern. But let's face it, Geovane Jesus' defense has been getting better, and as his defense gets better, the gap separating him and Tuamasi grows, because the one thing Tuamasi has over Jesus is defense. And like I said, as Geovane Jesus is starting to show that his defense is coming around, where he's becoming less and less a liability there, it's just I don't know. I'm not counting out Tuamasi yet because there's going to be teams that you say, hey, let's start a defensively strong lineup. So Tuamasi is still, I would say, him and Jesus are still going to rotate starts. But I think right now the bulk of those rotation starts have to go to Jesus as long as he's healthy.
Farfan is good. I mean, this team is the roster has really come together, and from moments when we were like, man, where's the depth? We see that it's there if people can step up. And one other thing we saw, of course, the debut of Illaramendi. Nice to see him on the pitch and really bring a calming presence toward the end of the game to be a point, a fresh set of legs, but also a point for getting the ball moved around. And I think he certainly contributed to sort of that push for that go-ahead goal, even if it didn't come earlier like we all wished it had. But good to see him for the first time, and I know he's got a lot of growing to do to kind of get acquainted with this team.
You know what? I think I mentioned it in our chat that I thought that I was impressed with what little I saw from him, but I've had time to thinking about it since I put that in chat that I thought I was impressed with, and going back and rewatching the game, I'm even more impressed now because you have to take into context what was going on, what was happening, and you have a man who's new to the team, who's probably in preseason form, and it just the entire time he was out there, Tuamasi and Ariola kept deferring to him. They kept they didn't know what to do with the ball, so they just give it back to him. All the other attackers, they were clueless. They would just give him the ball. They would immediately defer to him, and it was like, do something, guys. Oh no, we're just gonna give it back to you. And he was fine. He was just controlling that portion of the field, and my goodness, did he look cool as a cucumber out there? I mean, I'm like, he just seems so relaxed and calm. Like you've seen this from some of the other Spanish players, namely in Inter Miami, where they look like they're walking, but they're getting a lot done. And a lot of times you're like, wow, this guy looks like he's in no rush. But at the same time, at no time did he get dispossessed that I recall. At no time did he seem pressured to rush any passes. He just simply, and mind you, he's new to the team. He can't know what runs his teammates are going to make, and yet he was making the right pass almost each and every time. And why it wasn't offensive, there's still room for that. There's still room if you can control and dictate the midfield, if you can have that kind of player. I mean, the potential is there from what I've seen. I'm impressed, and let's see once he actually gets informed what else he can do.
Right.
And answering this question though, with that, I wasn't sure what position he was playing. Was he a 6 or an 8? I thought he was honestly like an 8.
I think they were
like the deeper of the two, and he kept dropping back like a dual 6 or dual 8. It was kind of like a hybrid, wasn't it?
Yeah. Because I think it was some of it was his game mode. I mean, it was his game state. It was, Austin is parking the bus. They had even gone at one point to just one center back. Martinez had come off. So yeah, at that point, I think he was kind of pushing forward a little bit. Oh, a little credit there to Dante Sealy as well for coming in for Jose Martinez and just sort of just like, I'll take guys on. Like, why aren't you guys? Of course, some of those guys out there had been out there for 90 minutes, have been taking people on, and struggling. But here comes this kid. That's what his job is. Just come out, hey, do something and create some opportunities.
I actually like what I saw from Ansa and Sealy in this match. I like what I saw from Yara and from Geovane Jesus before his injury. And it's not like everybody had a bad game. It's just there was a portion of the team that didn't really play too well. They just played rusty. They looked like I said,
just a
like
little
team that hadn't
disconnect,
played
a
in
little
while.
timing off, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But you saw flashes from everybody, though. Almost everybody had a flash. Like Areola didn't look all that great, but you saw flashes of his hustle. That contributed to the goal there at the end. You see, so and that reminder of what he does out there, even when he's having a bad game, this guy fights and fights and fights. That he's a guy that creates chaos. Just from all his scrambles that he makes. Um, and that's one of the reasons I wasn't too happy that Kamungo was taken out, because Kamungo has shown that he's another guy that creates chaos out there. So I was impressed with some players that showed flashes, but really it was an inconsistent, incomplete game from most players. But they all didn't look bad. Some players looked pretty good in limited roles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Jose who has a gift of gab here. That's we appreciate it.
That's right.
Well, but okay, so we'll come back. We'll come back and looking at the coming games. One little bit of news about FC Dallas before we just talk a bit about North Texas. Just to update everybody on where they are. We want this news here of this report from Daniel Nora that Velasco's likely getting called up for the U23s, the Argentine national team. So I think they recognized his form. It probably helps that he played against such a great game against Messi, earlier this month.
Well, yeah. Technically against Busquets, I mean, he was making Busquets' life miserable.
Yeah, right.
That whole match, and frankly, you can honestly say that the game turned when he left the field. It really changed the entire game, and anybody can see that he was class, that he belonged out there, playing with those Spanish midfielders. And the rumor came out several days ago, actually, but this is the first time that you get like an actual confirmation that it's happening. But the rumor had been around for about a week that Argentina would be calling him up for the pre-Olympic camp, and I think we're all excited about that.
Be a good experience.
We're not excited that he can. Hopefully, he doesn't miss any times, but
yeah.
But he's a player that, why wouldn't you let him go? And frankly, he's a player that, unlike Jesus, you could actually play on without Velasco, because he's been playing centrally, and apparently Iara is more of an 8 than a 6. So you could then slot Iara and Leggett together with Quignon in the back. So I think they would be able to compensate for. I'm not saying they wouldn't miss him, but it wouldn't be, say, as big of a miss as if you lost Jesus for a long time.
Well, shifting over to North Texas, then we'll come back and look at this week's games for FC Dallas. But North Texas, it's not been their season. But the good news is they're not completely out of the post game. It's a really slim. I mean,
they're going to need help. They need to run the table.
They'll need to run the table, and they're going to need some help from other guys. So in all likelihood, they are not going to make the playoffs. I mean, there's just too many scenarios where it just hurts. But
the bad thing about the 3 remaining games is the strength of schedule. Is they're going to play the number 1 team, they're going to play the number 2 team, and they're going to play like the number 5 team. So they're all 3 opponents they have remaining on their schedule are all pretty much going to be playoff. 2 of the top seeds. I may be wrong. I think it's the first team and the 3rd place team right now. But the one team that they play on the road is Houston, and Houston is a tremendous home team, and North Texas SC has struggled in Houston since the day they arrived in MLS Next.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a good away victory for North Texas, one of their better defensive performances recently.
Against a team, by the way, that they needed to beat, that's ahead of them in the standings.
And Vancouver still, Carrera had to work, having 10 saves. Some of the saves weren't as great as others, but Vancouver certainly had their opportunities. But yeah, credit to like Corca and Nolan Norris both going full 90. Herbert Endele going 90. So those first team guys getting some crucial minutes and getting opportunity there. And Carl Sante, another good performance. And Jose Milano, 8th goal of the season. And I asked the coach about that a few weeks back, just because like he hasn't played a whole lot for North Texas. It's been sporadic because of the injury thing, and he still's got 8 goals. And so that's a good sign for him and his talent.
It's yes and no. I mean, I was listening to the Third Degree podcast when Bus said that Mulatto has been loaned out to North Texas for the remainder of the season.
Right. Because they needed that foreign spot, I think.
They needed that foreign spot.
Yeah.
But frankly, while he's had a rough year and he seemed to have regressed, I honestly think he hasn't been 100% healthy. And the injuries prevented him from. He should have been loaned out to a USL team. That's the bottom line. Is he was clearly not ready to play at FC Dallas, but he's showing again that once healthy, he's too good to be playing at the MLS next level. And frankly, next season I would be disappointed if he's still playing. With the senior team not getting minutes and then playing with North Texas. I don't want to see that. I think he's the guy that needs to go on loan. He needs to be playing for the San Antonio's FCs or whoever that is going to give him minutes, as opposed to what we're seeing with Parker, where he's sent to one of the better teams and isn't getting any minutes, and that's not helping anybody.
Yeah. But so credit to North Texas, an important win, and I think Coach Gall seen the work that this team has been putting in. So it's been a disappointing year, but it also feels a little like they're building for next year in some ways by these new faces. And
I want to add that to what you just said, and because I thought that I was going to add, and that is that it's clearly a transition year for North Texas. If you look at the sheer number of young players that they've signed, Ursula, Diego, Pepe's brother, and Lacey, and there's a lot of young players that were still pretty raw, that will be better next year. They're basically, this is their first year being professionals, and yes, we're aware that some of the international players haven't panned out like in previous years, but there's a lot of players transitioning on this team right now to professionals. Even Pondeka is transitioning from futsal, and he's only recently started to show what he can do. And that's what you're seeing is even if North Texas doesn't make the playoffs, which is a very real reality, they can still finish on a high note. And they've signed enough young players that you can clearly see this team is transitioning. And another thing, there hasn't been any sure hit future superstar academy products recently, other than Carrera maybe. And there's been a drop off in the academy, just not in the level of talent that they have, but that there's not a lot of difference makers like they were in the past. I mean, you look at some of the players that came out of there, Reynolds, Ferreira, Paxton, Pepe, and it goes on and on. Well, those guys are gone, and those guys haven't been replaced. There's still a lot of players that are talented that will need several years of seasoning to become solid professionals. And more Edwin Cerrillo types,
Sure.
Players that are going to need a lot of time, and that's really the difference. Is before you could go bring up some future superstar from the academy and give him minutes, and now you're getting players that are young and still learning to be professionals, and will need a year or two, maybe 3, to get it right, and that's where the results are. They're playing inconsistent, and we see it. It's infuriating to see him score a goal and then allow a goal, less than a minute.
Time and time again.
Time and time again, and that's the sign of youth. that's a sign of inconsistency. That's a sign of them relaxing or still celebrating when they should be focusing on the game in hand, and they'll grow out of that.
Yeah. So, well, congratulations to them. It was, it was a good result, and I think that they celebrated a bit after game, because certainly after the season has been, I think they need to take all the joy they can to remind themselves why they play and plug in. But still 3 more games. They are not mathematically eliminated, so see what happens. Game at a time.
One team to try to get a result in each one. They probably won't happen, but even if they do, more power to them. Like I said, they can finish strong and say, okay, look, that's something we can build on.
So back to FC Dallas as we close out the show. 2 games this week. Luckily, the team is for the most part healthy, so there should be some rotation. We might see Illaramendi get his first start. There's some options for this team. To think about the lineups, and Jesus should be good to go after a week of being under the weather.
Right.
So, yeah. But this Wednesday night, it's they travel to St. Louis. That's a really crucial matchup, I think. It'll be interesting to see. You want to get a point at this junction in the season. You want to get as many points as you can. But I think Dallas has no reason not to go in and try to steal all 3 points against St. Louis City, and then back at home on Saturday against Atlanta, who actually is really interesting team to face right now because
very inconsistent team.
Yeah, and they played well this past weekend, but the rumor is that Thiago Almada is on his way out. That Ajax is negotiating for him. Will a deal get done in time? I think their window closes September 1st, so he might not be with the team, and so that might be a little bonus for FC Dallas.
Yeah, but they've been a very inconsistent team. I mean, they look like they look like a playoff team one week, and then they look like they're clueless the next. You don't know which Atlanta you're going to get, so that'll be a very interesting game to see which team shows up. But they had a big win, and teams can build on wins like that. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, who did they beat this weekend? Oh my! Because it was a beatdown. I mean, it was a Thiago Almada show. In fact, he was named player of the match day.
They crushed Nashville.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Who, by the way, had the #1 defense, believe it or not, and now are tied with FC Dallas for the #1 defense. I looked it up. So Nashville and FC Dallas have allowed the same number of goals, except Nashville allowed 4 goals against Atlanta, and that's just a hangover from all the Leagues Cup play. I mean, that was my thing with. I wasn't too upset that Dallas didn't go further. Yes, of course, I would have preferred they gone further, but I was concerned that if FC Dallas beat Miami, they had a beatable opponent in front of them in Charlotte, and then they would have basically been locked into 2 more games, and then they would be exhausted coming into this. And I think Nashville you're seeing the result of going too deep into Leagues Cup.
All right, so predictions for this week, Jose. What are you thinking? RT thinks we can beat St. Louis. The performance on Saturday against Austin gives me a little pause to think that FC Dallas is just going to run out against them. But I'd be happy with a 1-1 draw at this stage of the season with some positives and some, the team getting itself back together. Maybe they sneak out a 2-1 or a 1-0 win. I mean, what are you thinking, Jose?
Give me a minute. I heard a rumor that I'm trying to verify it, and I can't find it. But I thought one of St. Louis's key players was injured, and we won't know till they release the injury reports. But I believe one of their key players is out for the FC Dallas game, and from what I hear from their fans, when he doesn't play, the team plays like crap, kind of like when Jesus doesn't play, along those lines. So I'll be watching the injury report, and I think because both teams are playing, on a short week, it'll come down to depth, and it'll come down to if the FC Dallas players that are coming off injuries and haven't get a lot of minutes, it'll come down to how they play. In all honesty, I think it's going to be a very drawish game. I think you're right, but it is a game that I think they can pull a win from. One thing that they'll have going for them is Jesus will be fresh.
Yeah.
So your most dangerous player is going to be fresh for this game, and yeah, I think you'll see Martinez rotate out. You'll see Ibiaga come in. You get Tomasi probably, or depending. Hopefully, if Geovane Jesus just tweaked and it was cautionary, we get him back. Yeah, I think FC Dallas has a chance to walk out of it with 3 points, but they can't. They can't be aggressive. They got to be, it's got to be a typical. It's got to not look not much different than the Austin game. In all honesty, I hate to say it that way, but Nico's going to play to kill the game, try to keep it 0-0, and try to sneak out of there with a 1-0 win. And I have faith in him. I think with a healthy, fresh-legged Jesus, I think Dallas is capable of doing that, because I think St. Louis is going to try to run with Dallas. And Dallas, for all its flaws, punishes those kind of teams. And so, yeah, I think my prediction is 1-0 FC Dallas. I do expect it to be a draw, but you know what? I'll take the fresh leg Jesus to score as a winner.
Good. RT, good.
I like his pick even better. But I'm trying to give St. Louis their props. They're tough at home. They've been playing well. I'm worried about their depth, but it's not like our depth is great. It will be great when everybody's healthy and informed, but they're not there yet. So, yeah, I think it'll be a ugly game, and I think Dallas walks out of there with a 1-goal win, whether it's 1-0 or 2-1 or 3-2. I think Dallas can pull it off.
And I think on Saturday, this weekend, I think it'll be a 3-0 FC Dallas win at home. And I think Atlanta is going to sell Almada, and so we'll be sort of in a strange place as a team. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if Ajax
honestly, I think a 4 point 4 points out of those two games would be the ideal result, but 6-0 is even better, and I'll be cheering for 3-3.
All right. Well, let's leave it there. Thanks, everyone, for your questions, your comments. It's fun. And, of course, we'll be posting the audio to this tomorrow, as well as some other features coming up. Going to sit down with a conversation with Carl Sante from North Texas SC and about his journey and kind of his goals as a player and how he's perceived this season to have gone. And hopefully some other interesting bits that will filter in. And by the way, if you haven't checked out some of the Austin fan base, commiseration, it's a good 10 minutes of your time to poke around on Twitter.
One last thought though, on the North Texas game, Taboada made his, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, made his debut, and honestly he reminds me a lot of Mulatto in all honesty in his style of play. He's clearly a pure 9, although they did play him on the wings at times, but he looks like a big physical player, not slow, but he looks raw, just like Mulatto looked really raw his first year. That's what this guy looks like, and I did like what I saw from him potential wise, and I could see him. It won't be this year because he joined so late, but I'm curious to see what he does with a couple of games under his belt with a team in a full preseason next year. I did like what he saw. He's got a lot of raw tools and a lot of potential. So he looks like another Mulatto type, and unpolished gem.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. Well, thanks, Jose. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night, and Go FC Dallas.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
By the way, do you like my new kit
Yeah. Forward Madison. All right.
for Madison?